Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we were diving into one of history's most explosive questions. How did a single bullet in a forgotten corner of Europe ignite the first ever world war? It sounds like something out of a movie, but the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo on June 28, 1914 was the spark that lit a global firestorm. But a spark is useless without a powder keg, and in 1914 Europe was exactly that, a continent piled high with gunpowder, just waiting for a reason to blow. So, let's rewind the clock and uncover the real, complex reasons why the world went to war. Before we get to that fateful day in Sarajevo, we need to understand the atmosphere in Europe. Imagine a neighborhood where everyone is secretly stockpiling weapons, making pacts with their friends, and constantly glaring at each other over the fence. That was Europe in the early 20th century. This tension had four major ingredients, and historians love a good acronym, so they call it MAIN: militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism. Let's break them down. First up, militarism. This wasn't just about having a big army, it was a cultural obsession. Countries like Germany and Britain were locked in a fierce naval arms race. Britain, with its massive empire, had a policy that its navy had to be larger than the next two largest navies combined. Germany, a rising power, saw a powerful navy as its ticket to the top table. This led to a frantic shipbuilding competition. On land, armies were growing at an alarming rate. France and Germany doubled the size of their standing armies between 1870 and 1914. Military leaders gained huge influence in government, and war was often seen not as a last resort, but as a valid tool of foreign policy, a way to solve problems and prove your nation's strength. Next, we have alliances. This is where it gets really messy. Europe was tangled in a web of secret and public agreements. On one side, you had the Triple Entente: France, Russia, and Great Britain. They were united by a shared suspicion of Germany. On the other side was the Triple Alliance: Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Italy. These alliances were meant to keep the peace, like a "you mess with my friend, you mess with me" kind of deal. The theory was that no one would dare start a fight, knowing it would drag everyone else in. But in reality, it created a domino effect. A small, regional conflict could now automatically escalate into a continent-wide war. It was a tripwire system, and the wire was stretched incredibly tight across the entire continent. Third on our list is imperialism. The major European powers had spent decades scrambling to carve up Africa and Asia for themselves, building vast empires to secure resources, markets, and prestige. This competition created constant friction. Britain and France clashed over territory in Africa. Germany, a latecomer to the imperial game, felt it deserved its place in the sun, and aggressively sought colonies, which often put it at odds with the established empires. This colonial rivalry fueled the arms race and poisoned international relations. Every nation was looking over its shoulder, paranoid that its rivals were getting ahead in the global land grab. The empire wasn't just about economics. It was a measure of national greatness. Finally, and perhaps the most potent force, was nationalism. Nationalism is the belief that your own country is the best, but in the early 20th century, it was an aggressive, competitive force. In powerful nations like Germany and Britain, it manifested as jingoism and a desire to prove their dominance. But there was another, more explosive kind of nationalism bubbling up within the great empires themselves. The Austro-Hungarian Empire, for example, was a patchwork of different ethnic groups: Germans, Hungarians, Czechs, Poles, and Serbs, among others. Many of these groups, particularly the Slavs, dreamed of breaking away to form their own independent nations. This was especially true for the Serbs. The newly independent nation of Serbia saw itself as the champion of all Slavic people, and it had its eyes on the Serbs living under Austro-Hungarian rule in neighboring Bosnia. And that brings us back to Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia, which was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The Archduke, Franz Ferdinand, was the heir to the throne of this sprawling, multi-ethnic empire. To the Serbian nationalists, he was the symbol of their oppression, a secret society known as the Black Hand, which had ties to the Serbian government, plotted to assassinate him during his visit. They saw it as a blow for Serbian freedom. On that June day, the initial assassination attempt failed. A bomb was thrown at the Archduke's car, but it bounced off and exploded under the car behind, injuring several people. The Archduke, shaken but unharmed, decided to continue with his day, but later chose to visit the wounded in the hospital. Here's where fate took a bizarre turn. His driver took a wrong turn down a side street, and as he tried to reverse, the car stalled. By sheer unbelievable coincidence, they stalled right in front of a cafe where one of the assassins, a 19-year-old named Gavrilo Princip, had gone after the failed morning attempt. Princip couldn't believe his luck. He stepped forward, drew his pistol and fired 2 shots. One hit the Archduke's wife Sophie, and the other hit Franz Ferdinand in the neck. Within minutes, they were both dead. Now remember that tripwire system of alliances? The assassination was the moment someone stumbled. Austria-Hungary was furious. They saw this as a direct attack by Serbia and an opportunity to crush Serbian nationalism once and for all. They issued an ultimatum to Serbia, a list of 10 demands so harsh that they were designed to be rejected. To everyone's surprise, Serbia accepted 9 of them, but balked at the 10th, which would have allowed Austrian officials to conduct an investigation inside Serbia, a complete violation of their sovereignty. That was all the excuse Austria-Hungary needed. On July 28, 1914, exactly 1 month after the assassination, they declared war on Serbia. Now watch the dominoes fall. Russia, seeing itself as the protector of the Slavic Serbs, began to mobilize its massive army to defend them. Germany, allied with Austria-Hungary, saw Russia's mobilization as a threat. They demanded Russia stand down. When Russia refused, Germany declared war on Russia. Then, according to its military plan, Germany knew it had to defeat France quickly before the huge Russian army was fully ready. So Germany declared war on France. To attack France, German troops marched through neutral Belgium. This violated a treaty that Great Britain had signed to protect Belgium's neutrality. Outraged, Britain declared war on Germany. And just like that, within a week, all the major powers of Europe were at war. So did that one bullet start World War I? Yes and no. It was the immediate trigger, the final push, that sent an already teetering structure crashing down. But the structure itself was built on years of militarism, entangling alliances, imperial rivalries, and fervent nationalism. Without the MAIN factors, the assassination of an archduke might have remained a regional crisis. But in the superheated, paranoid atmosphere of 1914, it was the spark that ignited a global catastrophe, leading to years of unimaginable conflict and changing the world forever. The Great War wasn't an accident. It was a tragedy waiting to happen. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into history. It's a complex topic, but understanding it helps us understand the world we live in today. If you found this interesting, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video. Let me know in the comments what historical event you'd like us to explore next. Until then, stay curious.